And we're going to start at the top of the table because it's a place to start with the champions. What do you expect from Manchester City this season after a treble winning season last season where basically everything went as well as Pep could have wanted?
Well, I think the first thing to think about as we sit and record this, Rob, on August the 7th, is the transfer window and what changes have been made. Now, Mateo Kovacic obviously has come into the football club to, I guess, negate the departure of Ilkay Gundogan. Riyad Mahrez has left as well for Saudi Arabia. So there's a little bit of change there. And I think Pep doesn't mind that little bit of change. But just on the bigger picture with them, with what they did with that treble, almost reaching the promised land, Rob, and everything that they set out to do from years and years ago, they've achieved it all in an incredible season last year. Now, I think the last 2 seasons, I have not backed Man City to keep doing it, Rob. And that's where they've proven me wrong over the last 2 seasons. You went with them again last year. I didn't because I just can't believe how hard it must be to go again. Now, this season, I'm going to say the same thing, Rob. I am going to say that they can't, after that season, find a way for week in, week out, which is what they do in an astonishing way. And I'm not just saying it about this, Rob, but it's so difficult. The way they finish off unbeaten again until the last few games to finish or to get clear of Arsenal was remarkable. And I just think, Rob, my one worry or an extra worry is that a little bit of change has happened this time. Ilkay Gundogan, as we loved him last year and everything else that he did, I think that's going to be a big miss. Now, if you're thinking of Kovacic is going to score those goals, for me, he's not. He's not going to get the numbers that Gundogan has got. Now, Riyad Mahrez has left again. Wasn't maybe the first choice on that right-hand side, but came in many, many times. All I would say, Rob, is there's rumours of Kyle Walker leaving for Bayern. Bernardo Silva possibly for Barcelona. I would just say this as I finish this first kind of answer really is if Bernardo Silva goes and maybe one another, and I know they brought in Gvardiol, this brilliant Croatian defender from RB Leipzig for a big fee. I mean, City are brilliantly set for the defensive line. I just think where City could mess up a little bit is Pep rotates, and if that squad through the changes that we're seeing this summer, and of course the summer window's not closed yet, if those changes bring about more departures, then maybe the rotations and the games, Rob, where he brings in different players, means that they drop more points than you might normally expect. If the squad is weaker, then that might be a reason that others can get a boost that they can get ahead of them.
Well, I take all your points, some of which I've got a similar note. I think, and we've just had a production call, Rob, and we were talking about the season and looking at it from different angles. And I said, this is one of the most indecisive seasons I can remember at the top end of the table, because I don't quite know what some teams might do. What might Arsenal do? What might Chelsea do? What might Spurs do? Where United going to go? Or Liverpool going to come back? One thing I do know, Rob, the certainty is Manchester City will be fighting for a title. I absolutely know that. And it's 4 straight. And I know you talked about the big question is, what has the treble, what has winning the Champions League done to this group?
Yeah,
I totally agree. The one note I've got is losing Gundogan and Mahrez. It's not just losing 2 very good players. At times they've been game changers, Rob. Gundogan's come up at big moments. Remember the end of the season against Villa, goals, Mahrez, Champions League, come up with moments. So it wasn't just their performances. They've come up with big moments, game-changing moments. Can Kovacic do that? Can Foden now, who's going to get more game time, and Grealish and that, can they fill that void? I think that's a question. Pep, I was reading a little bit about Pep today, and he said, I need to find out with this group how hungry we are. And I thought it was a really interesting thing for him to say, because we always know his teams are driven. We all know that, but the thing I'm unsure of is what has that treble done to this group, Rob? In any way, does it take a little bit away from it? I don't know. I think the answer is no. And I think Pep won't allow it. And I still back them to win it. But my big question is, what has winning the treble and that Champions League that they've wanted so badly, what does that do to the group?
Well, it's interesting, Rob, because I'll follow on immediately because there was a really good article. I've read a few things. Of course, we're reading stuff, all the time during the summer window. But there was an article, I can't think of what it was in now, but it talked about Manchester United's treble, Rob. I think Rio Ferdinand was quoted. It talked about, I think it was The Athletic, it talked about the Dwight York syndrome, where I think Dwight York, Rob, might have asked for a season off. Like after the winning the treble, I think he said something to the managers like, you know what, can I go back or whatever his personal reasons were. And basically the piece was just about this. After the treble, how does it affect you? And it basically said that it did affect Man United a little bit, that they weren't quite the same. They did take her off the board. Now that's not saying it's going to happen at City, but it's in my thoughts. You just brought it up there about how it does to them. And again, that's why I said at the start, before when they've won things, they bounce back and we eulogize about their mentality and the manager and everybody else. But I mean, really, like certainly with the Champions League to get there and to win that. So that will be, and Pep will look. And Pep said as well, Rob, in another article I read, that when he was at Barcelona and they achieved great things, he just reckons he could sniff. He could sniff when things needed freshen up, and he made some changes. I think the front players might have changed around at that time. Yeah. So that's what he'll be doing. There's a little bit of time with the window left. They've got in the big defender. Yeah. But anymore, if Bernardo Silva leaves, Rob, I mean that
would be a worry. That would be a worry. It's interesting as well. So you've mentioned about that. I think for the last 2-3 seasons, every time we get to this place, people generally are looking for reasons why City can't win it. You couldn't win it without a striker. You can't win it with a false nine. You can't win it with Haaland. He's not going to fit. Now we're looking at what has the treble done. The thing that also, Rob, is up for grabs. There's another record to win 4 straight Premier Leagues. Never been done. So Alex Ferguson, as great as he was, never won 4 straight Premier Leagues.
That's another.
We know how driven this fella. We know how driven this fellow is. We know he wants records. We know when he leaves, Rob, he wants to go. And I'm going to point you to one other thing that really caught my eye. Again, we all do our reading and our background to make sure we're up to speed with things. A certain gentleman's come back into the backroom staff, Rob. Juan Lilo, who many of our viewers and listeners might not know. Just take a little look at him, do a little bit of background. Very well respected, almost to the Bielsa level of somebody who's been a young coach, who've young players who were going into management, studied, were around. And Pep said a brilliant thing that stood me when he said, he's the best assistant in bad moments. He said, good moments, I don't need an assistant. In bad moments, he's the best thing. And he's got Pep's respect. And there might be, as you've said, some bad moments. There might be sniffing a couple of things. There might be Juan Lilo will make sure standards are maintained and Pep is on top of his game as well. Because maybe, listen, as great as Pep and as driven as Pep is, maybe he just somehow isn't quite the same guy. Juan Lilo coming back is a big move for Pep Guardiola and Manchester City.
Yeah, particularly for this season, Rob, because like last season, he went off and did something different. I guess it was so great. They didn't need that. They didn't need the bad moment kind of help. But maybe this season they might. So it's interesting. Yeah, I did see that note. And, I think he's a real favourite of Pep.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. For even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you over there.